A new poll from Emerson College, DC News Now, and The Hill shows Angela Alsobrooks leading Larry Hogan by 7 points in Maryland's all-important Senate race. The poll shows that Democrat Alsobrooks currently has the support of 49% of people in Maryland. Republican candidate Hogan has the support of 42% of the people in the state. Meanwhile, 9% of the voters say they're still undecided. Alsobrooks led Hogan 48% to 38% in the last Senate poll in May. For the presidential election, Vice President Kamala Harris currently leads with the 63% of the people in Maryland. 32% of Maryland voters say that they prefer former President Donald Trump, and 4% of voters say that they are still undecided. Joining Capitol Review is Dr. Mileah Kromer. She's the director of the Institute of Politics at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Dr. Kromer, thank you.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Well, what's your take on the polling at this point as we get closer to the November election?
So I think that this is the third public poll that has been released now in the general election race. And what we see is this is the largest lead that Angela Alsobrooks has posted against former Governor Larry Hogan. Keeping in mind there's still a margin of error to factor in, so I wouldn't call it a full 7-point lead. There is some sort of noise with all polls that you need to factor in. But the big story, I think, is that I think national Republicans and the Republican Party brand is not doing Larry Hogan a lot of favors here in Maryland.
Well, Dr. Kromer, you know the former governor is still so very popular. Do you think that he can get enough Democrats to vote for him to win a blue state? You've already talked about some of the hurdles that he's facing within his own party.
So there's certainly some problems within his own party, more so how Democrats view his party and how Democrats view the potential control of the Senate. I think that's a key issue. Governor Larry Hogan will continue to have, I think, strong favorability ratings and be generally liked by a lot of the Maryland electorate. But the problem is, again, that Democrats don't like to see Republicans gain control of the U.S. Senate. What's, I think, fundamentally different between this race and other races, when you start to look at those numbers underneath, is that where Larry Hogan became a really unique Republican in 2018 was his ability to essentially close the gender gap and do really well among African-American voters in the state. What we see in your new poll is that Angela Alsobrooks is now doing extremely well among African Americans and extremely well among women. I think a lot of that, particularly among women, has a lot to do with the control of the Senate, but also the broader questions around reproductive rights. Again, not necessarily Hogan's position, but the way the National Republican Party has positioned itself, and that's causing some issues for him in the state.
You talked about Alsobrooks being popular among African Americans and women. Do you expect her to rely on some heavyweight Democrats to campaign with her to maybe close the show out?
She already has, and I think that certainly speaks to the strength and and how well connected and well liked Angela Alsobrooks is in larger Democratic politics. The Vice President Harris, the Democratic nominee for president, has already campaigned on Alsobrooks' behalf. She also has the support of Governor Wes Moore, who is a popular figure in Maryland, particularly among African Americans. So the Maryland electorate is really diverse, and so you have to do well among African Americans to win this state. And again, that was a demographic that Hogan, as governor, polled far better and did far better than most Republicans do. But now the Senate contest, I think, is causing a little bit of a different sort of political terrain. But keep in mind, Hogan is still doing far better than former President Donald Trump. His numbers on your poll look effectively like they did in 2020.
Dr. Kromer, quickly, what do you expect from both candidates as we move closer to Election Day?
Well, I expect to see a ton of campaign ads flooding the Maryland airwaves. So I think anybody who's watching your show and watching any of the Maryland and D.C. media, they're in that market, are going to just be inundated. Because it's not just going to be from Republicans supporting Hogan. There's going to be a bunch of political action committee money coming into the state. Maryland is going to play a key role, I think, in deciding the balance of power in the Senate.
Dr. Mileah Kromer, thank you very much for joining us.